Book folding is super simple, super affordable, and can make some super personal, amazing gifts. The first step of book folding is to have a rough idea of what design you'll be folding in. You can use words, names, or pictures. My tips here are to only use images that work in black and white. When you're folding books, it only allows for negative and positive space, so using black and white is a good way to ensure that the end results will be readable. Try to use simple designs with attention to any overlapping sections. Where sections overlap, the detail will be lost. I'll explain this a bit later because it's easier to show you while we're folding, but if there's two unconnected sections, each will only get half the number of folds, and I would try to avoid any more than 2 if possible. With words this will naturally happen. For example, the letter O has 2 sections and the letter G has 3. Next, find your book. Things here to consider are making sure that it's a hardback book, making sure you have enough pages. I recommend 50 pages or 25 sheets per letter and then a few extra, remembering that 100 book pages is only 50 individual sheets, but you could go a little lower, but I wouldn't drop below 35 pages per letter. Also consider if you want to use a particular book. You can just get any book and cover it later, and using a particular book will add to the cost. I generally don't mind which book I use. I tend to get mine from charity shops. Big hardback books are only normally £1 or £2, and you can always cover it up, or if you're lucky you might find a relatively blank book where the design's only on a sleeve. If you're interested in how I make custom covers or cover up existing ones, let me know and I'll make a follow-up video. Once you have your design and your book, there's a couple of options for making the template. You can either do this manually by printing out the image and add in lines in pencil, or you can use software such as Photoshop to digitally add the lines. And if you're not confident with either of these options, you can buy pre-made templates on Etsy and similar websites. So your aim with the template is to make as many stripes as the number of folds or sheets that you're going to have folded. And it's a little bit difficult to explain. I could make a whole video on these, so let me know if you want a more detailed video. But the basics are making sure that the image is as many pixels or millimeters wide as the number of folds you want to do, and then making a vertical line for each one. This may mean that the design goes over multiple pages, but that's not a problem. You also want to make sure that the height of the image or the words is shorter than your page height. I aim to be about half the height or just over, and I also try to make sure that the image itself is a little bit lower than centered on the page, and we'll learn how to line that up later. The image or the word may look stretched out or shrunk, but once it's folded in it'll be perfect, so don't worry too much about what it looks like on the template. Once you have your template ready, grab the book and grab a pencil. In my opinion, this is the tedious part, but if you just put a video or some music on in the background, you can get in the zone and it actually can be quite relaxing. I tend to leave a few pages untouched at the beginning and the end of the book. I just think it frames it nicely, but you don't have to do this. I quite like to leave a sort of lip of pages at the top. So to do this, I just draw another line from the top down of the book so that I know where I'm folding up to, and I try to match that about the same distance away on the bottom of the book as well, so that should leave all the folds relatively even. Fold the template over the page to line up the design roughly in the centre of the page. This fold will also mean that you don't have to manually line up the image for each page. Put the folded template over the page behind your first page, line up the edge of the first stripe to your working page. Once you get into the swing of things, you can put it a few pages behind so you don't need to move it quite as often. Make a small pencil mark at the top and bottom of the image on each stripe, which should be 1 per page, and if you do get a stripe with 2 sections, you'll need to alternate these marks. 1 page for the bottom section, 1 page for the top section, and carry on like that until you're back to a single section. I also recommend using a highlighter to keep track of where you are on your template. It can be really easy to lose track of which stripe you're on, particularly if you're like me and have made the stripes really thin to fit on 1 page. Then you just have to go through moving the template, lining up each stripe and marking each page until you've done your whole design. If there's spaces between the letters, you also need to figure out how many pages you're going to leave, and the way that you make a space is to fold the whole page back on itself so that it's still a negative space. Images work just the same as words in this craft, so take them 1 stripe at a time and it will all come together in the end. Now we get to the last section, which is folding the book. So basically all these pencil marks that you've put in, you will fold a little triangle of the page between them, and it will take a while to take shape, but trust me, eventually you'll get there. I tried to make the folds as flat as possible because otherwise the book can be quite bulky by the end of it. Remember that every time you're folding a page, you're adding at least twice the width to that page. So the triangle I'm folding in is made by folding at the pencil mark to the line I drew earlier down the edge of the pages. I just use my nail to flatten out each fold once I'm happy with the fold position. In this video I'm doing an image, but words work exactly the same, you just have to think of the letters as an image. If you want me to do a separate video showing you the ins and outs of doing letters, I'll be happy to do that, just let me know in the comments below. These are great gifts, especially for book lovers. If someone has a particular book they like Harry Potter, you can use that particular book, or we can make a custom sleeve for it so that it looks like Harry Potter. You can see here that places with overlapping sections result in alternating folds, meaning that these sections only end up with a fraction of the detail. This is one of the most affordable crafts you can do. I also don't think there's much skill involved. I think template making is probably the most difficult part of this, and the end results speak for themselves. If you did find this video helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you consider liking and subscribing, and I hope to see you again soon.